we are going to go into the NBA for this one, and we're going to talk about the Knicks. We got another NBA topic coming up as well, a playing topic, so stay tuned for that. That's going to be coming up in the next 15, 20 minutes. But let's talk about the Knicks, my Knicks, Zay's Knicks. Should we agree with Udonis Haslem's first round exit theory prediction for the Knicks? And John, if you want to begin, by all means.
So how I feel about that is I think the Knicks will make it out of the first round. Again, I like to go with history because it's what we've seen in the past, especially with Tom Thibodeau as the coach. Although the defense has taken a step back with Karl Anthony Towns being the one you've kind of structured this offense around, especially with Jalen Brunson being hurt. I would say that no, the Knicks are not going to exit in the first round. If they were to go into the playoffs today, the team that they would be taking on is the Detroit Pistons. And while what the Detroit Pistons have done has been admirable with Cade Cunningham leading them with, his 9 or 10 triple doubles this season, I still think this is a very, very young team that is going to be building up to be a big main player in as far as the NBA is concerned, the same way that the Detroit Lions have done in the NFL. So I don't think the Knicks will be exiting in the first round. I think, although, again, the defense has taken a step back, I think they can put up enough points to get past the Detroit Pistons. And I feel like they can do enough with the experienced guys that they have, the Mikal Bridges of the world, if Jalen Brunson comes back. I feel like they have enough to be able to get past the Detroit Pistons. Again, things are going to shift around a little bit. We're not at the end of the season quite yet. But if they were to go into the playoffs today, I would say no, the Knicks would make it to the second round.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know what it is with these media pundits, former NBA players turned media heads that think that just trying to go clickbait is the right place to go. I just never understood that. They have some of the worst takes. I understand they played the game, they know the game, the ins and outs, but their takes are horrible. And I tell people, it's a difference, right? You could know the game, but your take is horrible. You could have a good take and not know the game. It is what it is. But as of today, looking at the standings right now, the Pistons obviously is looking like the likely matchup in the first round of the playoffs. Excuse me, I'm actually sick right now. Look, Cade Cunningham, he has been ascending, an ascending all-star caliber player. I think the additions of Malik Beasley, Tobias Harris, and Tim Hardaway has provided three-point shooting that has opened the floor for him to do what he does. And look, the Knicks, they're a young team, the Pistons, right? And I think they could take advantage of Karl Anthony Towns' defense. Anybody can, pretty much. They could feed Jalen Duran in the paint and, have some, moments there and probably win, a game or whatever. But with all due respect, if we lose 4 games to the Pistons with the busy offseason that we had and the expensive offseason that we had, then I might have to drop a ban on Tom Thibodeau head with all due respect. Okay, nah, it's not happening. Okay, and that's a jokey joke. But I do think we're going to be somewhere in between the Eastern Conference Finals and the second round. I'm looking at the second round, depending on the matchup. Obviously, Boston and the Cavaliers are the two teams that teams are trying to measure up to see if they can play with those guys. And obviously, the last 3 games, the Cavaliers have been sliding down. I think when you start off with the Cavaliers, I think what makes it interesting is that you look at the last 2 years that we've played them in the regular season or rather in the playoffs in that first round, we was physically imposing and we suffocated them, right? We dominated the boards, right? Mitchell Robinson more directly dominated that entire series. Okay. Then you look at last year, you had guys on the interior like Hartenstein, and he made the Cavs look small. Now we don't have that physically imposing, gritty style of play. We have a different, a more modernized style of basketball that we're playing, and it seems like the Cavaliers individually has progressed as a team. So it's almost like you in middle school and you're bullying this guy and you're beating him up every day, and then he gets in the weight room and he gets in the gym and he works on his game, and now you can't bully him the same way. And that's how I look at the Cavs. I think the Cavs, despite the 3-game losing streak, they're still better. Darius Garland has taken strides. Evan Mobley is always going to be the X factor on how far they can go. I think he's improved as a creator and an offensive, creator to Donovan Mitchell. But I think what we saw, especially in that Sunday game against the Magic, I watched that entire game. The Magic really forced them to play a style of offense that they wasn't comfortable with, and they really won that game defensively at the end. So I think the Cavaliers can get God. I do see some
Yeah.
holes in these 3 games that they lost, just by you being physical. Look at what Zubac did a couple of days ago, 20 rebounds, just punished them. So if Mitchell Robinson could kind of, you know, duplicate what he did a couple of years ago, then I don't think that's a series where they're unbeatable. I think that could be a long series. So I think first round exit is a little bit premature.
Yeah.
Zay, I'll leave the mic to you.
You know, you have to talk about where this is coming from, Udonis Haslem, and this is a guy who was on the Miami Heat team that took out the Milwaukee Bucks, that took out the New York Knicks, that took out the Boston Celtics, and went to the NBA Finals. Underdog, right? That was a playing team. It was an underdog that went into the NBA Finals, and this is what Udonis Haslem is talking about. He is embedded into that Heat culture, that grit, that grind, and he sees that similar making in Detroit Pistons on the JB Bickerstaff. It's a very gritty team, a very aggressive team, and
That's true, though.
he's looking at Detroit Pistons as a team that could cause an upset to anybody, let alone the Knicks. You could put them against the Boston Celtics, you could put them against the Cavaliers. It's going to be a long, gritty series, because it's not about talent. It's not about who has the better talent. Each team is about who plays harder, who plays tougher for 48 minutes, and I don't think you can make an argument that there's any team in the Eastern Conference that plays grittier than the Detroit Pistons in a single game. They have a making of an attitude. They have aggressiveness. They play with no fear, and that's something that you can't take away from Detroit. You can't take away heart from Detroit, and that's something that can make a devastating team in the playoffs, especially a team like the Detroit Pistons, who are essentially playing with fool's gold because nobody anticipated them being a top 6 team in the Eastern Conference before the season started. Everyone written them off already. When JB Bickerstaff went there, everyone wrote them off as a team that's even a contender. But I say all of that to say, the Knicks are not going to be a first-round exit team. This team is still going to make the Eastern Conference Finals at minimum. When you look at Mitchell Robinson and what the dynamic he brings to the court, he removes the paint element for any team. He removes the paint element for the Cavs. He removes the paint element for the Boston Celtics. He removes the paint element from the Milwaukee Bucks, the Pacers. The teams that were decimating the Knicks all season long were dominating the paint. You could look up the numbers. You could look up every stat from every single game. Between the Celtics, between the Cavaliers, they dominated the paint. Between rebounds, points in the paint, blocks, whatever it is. Mitchell Robinson being on that court, it removes the paint from those teams, which forces them now to take a lot more tougher shots. It forces defenders like OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges to stay more aggressive and push forward, to push them off the three-point line to face Mitchell Robinson in that paint. Mitchell Robinson, and I said this for years and years and years and years, and I'm still saying it till today, is the most impactful player on the New York Knicks because of what he brings defensively. Everyone complained that he didn't have an offensive skill set, but despite him not having an offensive skill set, his presence on the court is so impactful. The Knicks are number 1 in defensive rating since his return on the court. They were 14th in the league before that. So it's important that people understand what Mitchell Robinson brings and how it impacts everybody on the floor. Everyone talks about, Jalen Brunson's out. He's hurt. He's not going to be 100% ready when the season begins. Fine. But the team that going against the Knicks with Mitchell Robinson on the court, they're going to have to take a lot more tougher shots and shoot over 7-footers all game and hope they're shooting 40% per game. Because if they're not, it's going to be a lot of trouble to beat the Knicks just by shooting threes, because the paint is not going to be open or as open as it was throughout the duration of the season. The Knicks team is still formidable. It is the most talented basketball team in their franchise history, in my opinion. And this is something that people keep overlooking, despite we had high expectations for this team to win. This year, I thought the Knicks were going to win 65 games because of the talent on the team. They're well below that, but they're still going to beat the record that they had last year if the season progresses the way it is. So I think a lot of fans, including media, over-exaggerate when they lose games because the expectations were very high for them at the beginning of the season to win the Eastern Conference.
So I like what both of you guys had to say when it comes to the Detroit Pistons. I'm going to play devil's advocate for a bit because Leo mentioned a lot of the guys that have been on the team or the guys that they've picked up. They also mentioned Tobias Harris, who they got from the Sixers. And Tobias Harris,
Look
despite
at
this
him in the
being a young
playoffs, bro.
team,
Respectfully.
but what I'm saying is he is a veteran presence on that team that has been to the playoffs. So while I understand Tobias Harris is not the kind of caliber player that Cade Cunningham and some of the other guys that they picked up is, especially in the playoffs,
The
that is a
disappearing
vet.
act.
It is a veteran presence, then a veteran voice in the locker room that
Did
could
Tim Hardaway
matter
get any minutes in
during
the
playoffs.
finals? Did Tim Hardaway Jr. get any minutes in the finals?
No, he didn't. But what I'm saying, a veteran voice in the locker room is important. Any veteran voice. You see what I'm saying? Especially when you're on a young team because
Malik Beasley never saw a shot he didn't like. Respectfully.
well, so did Jameis Winston, but that's a topic for another day. We got past the football about this. By the way, shout out to Kenny Smith saying somebody's going to tame this cat, by the way. I love that comment. That was absolutely beautiful. But my point is, again, a veteran presence in the locker room, being in somebody's ear, is going to matter. And this could be an interesting series. While I don't think the Pistons are going to win, like you said, the mentality is this is a team that could go with anybody and can get an upset. Now, I think Boston is a little bit of a stretch, but I do think a team like the New York Knicks, if the New York Knicks aren't careful, can get got. And Tom Thibodeau, at the same time, has been known to run players into the ground, and people have complained about the minutes that they've played in the past. It's been a topic now for the past couple of seasons. So I'm not saying that the Knicks are going to lose, but I'm saying it isn't impossible for the Knicks to get got. And I just wanted to play devil's advocate for a bit because I think we all know that
I
it's
mean, look,
somewhat true.
it's not nothing is impossible, brother. In this world, all right, it's not impossible that I could be dating Rihanna next year. Okay,
That's
with
true.
all due respect, it could happen,
Not
but
tomorrow.
4 games, okay, 4 games. I don't see that happening. Look, I like what the Pistons are doing. Is admirable. Okay, they finally getting some primetime love. They was on last night against the Heat. Cade Cunningham, won the game at the buzzer. That guy have a lot of talent. I'm definitely locked in to see his growth as a player, and the continuous ascendance that he's putting on display. But a lot of those role players are leftovers. They coach, bigger staff. Credit to him. I love to see the black man doing it. He got
Right.
fired though by the Cavaliers because he couldn't make adjustments in the playoffs. So at the end of the day, these players and coaches are here for a reason. I think in the playoffs that will highlight itself, especially against our Knicks. But I think
Right.
where I want to end off and say I'll let you bring us home is we know what Boston is already, right? We know how good
Yeah.
Boston is. We already seen it. They won the championship. They're one of the best teams in the NBA right now. We know what they have, right? We know what Cleveland is because they've been doing it all year. Sure, they lost 3 games in a row, and maybe they're showing some chinks in their armor right now. But we know they're not creeping up on us. Boston is not creeping up. Cleveland is not creeping up. But we don't know what the Knicks are and how good the Knicks can be. Now that we got Mitchell Robinson back, when we get Jalen Brunson back, we don't
Yeah.
know when it's
That's
all
fair.
there on the court how good we are, if we are going to be good, or if we're going to live up to that expectation that we had for ourselves, which was the majority Eastern Conference Finals. We don't know how good we are. So I think that could be dangerous for the league. And that's why I think a first round exit is a little bit too premature for me.
Before I let Zay go, just remember where the Pistons came from last year, losing almost 30 straight. So they came from that to where they are now in one season. So let's just keep that in mind before I let Zay go.
Like I said, Detroit Pistons I'm a huge fan of hustle, huge fan of grit, huge fan of attitude. The Pistons fill all those boxes. They are a gritty basketball team. And I think you add a couple pieces to that team, they could be very dangerous down the line if they continue that fire. Right now, they're trying to prove a point. Don't overlook us. JB Bickerstaff has been an overlooked coach. Cade Cunningham has been an overlooked player. A lot of like Loach said, a lot of guys, veterans that are on that team, overlooked guys. Jalen Duran, people overlooked him as a top pick. So there's a lot of guys who have chips on their shoulders and they're trying to prove it. And they can make a message. They can absolutely send a message, even with a loss series to the Knicks. If they take it to games, 6 games, 7 games, The story, unfortunately, would be, oh, the Knicks are not who we think they are. They're going 7 games to the Pistons, but like when you look in the inside, into like if people that are really entrenched in basketball, they look at the Pistons and say this team is actually something serious. Like the Knicks when they went to the playoffs and a couple years ago, Randall, Alfred Payton, and Bullock. It starts there. It starts with the grit. It starts with the grind. It literally starts by surprising people when no one knew y'all was going to get to this point. And the Pistons right now are at that pinnacle where nobody knew you were going to get to this point, and now you're playing with house money. So I think in terms of that, like you can never sleep on a team that has a puncher's chance. I don't think it's as high of a chance as Udonis Haslem was making it seem on national television. But
yeah,
you give them their credits too. They're playing their butts off, right? The Knicks now, however, I just think you have too much talent. You have to adjust that starting lineup because Mitchell Robinson needs to start. But you have so much talent on that team to lose in that first round. And just keep the team as is, run it back. There's no way in hell. Even the second round, I said this, if the Knicks go to the second round and lose, that's too much talent on one team to go to the second round and be like, yeah, we're going to run it back next year. There's no way in hell. You go to the second round and lose and say, yeah, we're going to run it back because you made this team to compete with the Boston Celtics. You made this team to go to the Eastern Conference or the NBA Finals. This is why you made the team. This is why you traded all the draft picks. This is why you traded all your drafted players. This is why you took on all the salary cap. Everything. This is the team. And you lose in the second round after losing in the second round with RJ Barrett, Quentin Grimes, Emmanuel Quickly, after losing them like with OG Anunoby and them, Dante DiVincenzo last year in the second round, and then the second round again, you lose again? No way in hell. And Kenny, I'm not gonna answer there's too many cooks in the kitchen because that is not true. There's not too many cooks in the kitchen. Unfortunately, there's not enough cooks in the kitchen. Because when there was too many cooks in the kitchen, they called that an issue. Right now, we have a Brunson and Cat issue where no one else is getting the ball when they're both on the floor. And then when Brunson's not on the floor, nobody can make a damn shot.
And
so
both could be
I think
targeted.
he answered your question, Kenny.
Both could be targeted defensively.
You need the right chef in the kitchen to cook. Because it doesn't matter how many kids. Because the Celtics got Derek White, Brown, Tatum, Porzingis, Drew Holiday. They all can eat. They all can eat, and they won a championship by all eating. So there's no way there's too many cooks in the kitchen. The Denver Nuggets won a championship like that. The Milwaukee Bucks won a championship like that. So there's no way you can say there's too many cooks. First of all, your Golden State Warriors won like that. So you can't say there's too many cooks in the kitchen. It's just you got the wrong chefs in the kitchen. You got Italian chefs trying to cook Chinese food. It don't mix. You got to get the right chefs to make the right food to get the right meal. And right now, the Knicks have to figure it out.
You're speaking John's language, bro. Okay, you're speaking his language right now. Okay,
Italian people trying to make lo mein, it don't make no damn sense.
You hear?
You go to a Chinese food spot, why the hell you making me chicken? You go to a Chinese food spot, why you making me angel hair?
Listen, if I go to a soul food spot, I want fried chicken. With all due respect, okay?
That don't make no dollars or cents.
But the main point is the Knicks have too much talent. Now the heart needs to come in because that heart has to match the talent. Because right now you're playing with you're not playing with grit. You gotta bring that grit. We know you're talented. We all know you're talented. We know the skills, but you have to be physical because that's what the playoffs is. It's a physical series. The same team for potentially 7 straight games. They know what you got. You know what they got. Who has the heart to win that game? And that's really all it comes down to, playoff time. And
that's why we won that series against the 76ers. I didn't think we was more talented than they were. That was clear. They had Embiid, they had Maxey, but we was gritty and we out hustled them. And we won on the boards. We hustled. So, we don't have that same type of identity this year. We're going to try to win with talent, but I think we're going to have to bring some of that grit back. We got to bring some version of last year's team back. And that starts with effort. And we'll see what happens. And we're going to go to have.
Those are the teams that can trust the process. Let me just say that right now.
I got you. And we're going to have time here. And when we come back, we're going to play an old clip for about 2 minutes, kind of like rejuvenate here. And when we come back, we got 2 more topics left to go. So make sure you keep it locked.